So we're in Book 6, Canto 2. And in the first section of this canto, Savitri's mother questions Narad. How come such terrible disasters happen in the world? What is this mystery of pain? How has it come into the world? And she gives examples of all the things that are wrong with the world. So that takes up most of this first section. We're in the middle of this long questioning, this protest of hers about the unsatisfactoriness of the earth and particularly of humanity. So we just read at the bottom of page 440 something that seems an evocation of the wars that we have seen in our lifetime, the way that human beings destroy what centuries made, destroy the output of a nation's toil. A whole country may have worked hard for many, many years to achieve beautiful cities and buildings and institutions. It all just gets destroyed in a very short time for no real apparent reason. So now when she says he and his, this is man, humanity. I will read to the end of the section and then we'll go back and look sentence by sentence. All he has achieved, he drags to the precipice. His grandeur, he turns to an epic of doom and fall. His littleness crawls content through squalor and mud. He calls heaven's retribution on his head and wallows in his self-made misery. A part author of the cosmic tragedy, his will conspires with death and time and fate. His brief appearance on the enigmaed earth ever recurs, but brings no high result to this wanderer through the eon rings of God that shut his life in their vast longevity. His soul's wide search and ever-returning hopes pursue the useless orbit of their course in a vain repetition of lost toils across a track of soon forgotten lives. All is an episode in a meaningless tale. Why is it all? And wherefore are we here? If to some being of eternal bliss it is our spirit's destiny to return, or some still impersonal height of endless calm, since that we are, and out of that we came. Whence rose the strange and sterile interlude, lasting in vain through interminable time. Who willed to form or feign a universe in the cold and endless emptiness of space? Or if these beings must be, and their brief lives, what need had the soul of ignorance and tears? Whence rose the call for sorrow and for pain? Or all came helplessly without a cause? What power forced the immortal spirit to birth? The eternal witness once of eternity, a deathless sojourner mid transient scenes, he camps in life's half-lit obscurity amid the debris of his thoughts and dreams. Or who persuaded it to fall from bliss and forfeit its immortal privilege? Who laid on it the ceaseless will to live a wanderer in this beautiful, sorrowful world and bear its load of joy and grief and love? Or if no being watches the works of time, what hard, impersonal necessity compels the vain toil of brief living things? A great illusion then has built the stars. But where then is the soul's security, its poise in this circling of unreal suns? Or else it is a wanderer from its home who strayed into a blind alley of time and chance and finds no issue from a meaningless world. Or where begins and ends illusion's reign? Perhaps the soul we feel is only a dream, eternal self, a fiction sensed in trance. So the queen, Savitri's mother, she asks some very, I could say, significant questions that human beings have asked over the ages. Whence comes this mystery of grief and pain? What is the cause of it? What is the justification for it? So the rest of the canto is taken up with Narad's answers to these questions. All the questions that she has put, he answers, more or less one by one. But first, let us absorb the questions, recognize the questions that maybe we have asked ourselves at one time or another. And certainly thinking people can't help asking themselves these questions. Suresh can start? Yes, Suresh? Yeah.
All he has achieved, he runs to the
Precipice.
Precipice. His grandeur, he turns to an epic of doom and fall. His littleness grows content through squalor and gloom. He calls heaven's retribution on his head, and borrows in his self-made mystery.
Yes. So this is man, any human being. This is the tendency of humanity. That there are great achievements, nobody can deny it. But whatever he has achieved, then he drags it to the precipice. Precipice is a steep, tall cliff. So he throws it down. He may have reached a great height, but then whatever he's achieved, he pulls it down again. There is some grandeur and there is some nobility in humanity, but we turn it, she says, into an epic of doom and fall. So an epic is a big poem, a poem that deals with some kind of very significant story, a story that has a significance beyond just the people who are involved in the story, that has a significance for the whole of humanity. The Ramayana and the Mahabharata are great Indian epics, yes. So that nobility and grandeur that human beings are capable of, they tend to turn them into tragedies, into great big epic stories of doom, of disaster and fall, failure and death. We also have in us littleness. There's something in us which is quite content with its littleness. We crawl, she's exaggerating a little bit, but there's something like that, our littleness. It's quite happy to crawl through the squalor and the mud of the lower levels of consciousness. Squalor is when people have to live in really very disgusting conditions, like in the slums of the big cities of the world, no? Where there's no proper water or sanitation and the children can't be kept clean and people have to live so close together. There's this squalor, this not only poverty, people can be poor and still live with dignity, but squalor, it is really dirtiness, yes. And then the other thing that we do is that we commit crimes against the higher law. We call heaven's retribution on our heads. A retribution is when we do something wrong and we have to be punished, or some punishment comes, it can't be avoided. So we do things that call down on ourselves retribution, but then when the consequences come, we wallow in our self-made misery. We've called this misery and unhappiness, suffering on ourselves, and then we make a big thing about it. Oh, what terrible disasters, what an awful life I have. No? Wallowing. Wallowing is, we think of hippopotamuses rolling in the mud, or pigs, if they have a nice muddy place, they will wallow. It's enjoying all that dirt and squalor, misery. So this is not a very nice picture of humanity, but we can recognize the truth in it. Bärbel, you will read.
A part also of the cosmic tragedy is will conspire with death and time and fate. His brief appearance and the enigmaed verse ever recurs that brings no high result to this wanderer through the eon rings of God. That shut has life in their vast longevity.
Yes. So, if we look at what goes on in the universe, it may seem as if it's a tragedy. A tragedy is a drama that ends unhappily. No? This is the universal tragedy. She says, man, humanity, is a part author of that tragedy. He's contributed to the writing of this sad story. It's something wrong with our will, our human will, that conspires, that plots together with death and time and fate, all the things that we feel are unfortunate and should not happen. But there's something in us which is helping to make them happen. Each of us comes and lives only for a short time on this earth. This enigmaed earth. This earth that is full of riddles and puzzles and things we can't understand. And we appear on this enigmaed earth just for a short time. But then she says it comes again and again. We are here for a short time and we go away and we come back, or somebody else comes back. So this brief appearance repeats itself, it recurs, it happens again and again. But even though it happens again and again, we don't seem to learn anything out of that. It doesn't bring any high result to this wanderer, this being who is wandering through time, through the eon rings of God. An eon is a vast stretch of time, and we know that in India for a very, very long time people have felt sure that time goes around in cycles, that there are ages and things happen and they pass away and we forget all about them, but then it all comes back again. So there's something circling round through these eons, these incredibly long stretches of time. They last eons, but they are enclosing and limiting our life in their vast longevity. The eons live for a long time. Longevity is the quality of living for a long time. Sergei, you would read?
His soul's light search and eternal hopes pursue the useless orbit of their course, in a vain repetition of lost toils, across a thread of soon-forgotten lives.
So his soul, man's soul, searches here and there. The hopes come back again and again. They're like planets or even comets that travel around the sun in an orbit. She says the searching, the circling, searching of the soul, the searching of human hopes. They're going also in cycles, going round and round, following this orbit, useless orbit of their course. And there's a repetition a useless repetition, a vain repetition of the efforts, the toils, all the hard work that has been done has to be done again and again. And we keep following this orbit, this track of our lives, which we soon forget, but then we just repeat them all over again. Bhavana.
All is an episode in a meaningless day. What is it all and wherefore are we here? If to some being of eternal bliss, it is our spirit's destiny to return, or some still impersonal height of endless calm, since that we are, and out of that we came. Whence rose the strange and sterile interlude, lasting in vain through interminable time?
Yes. So it seems as if every life that we have and everything that happens is just an episode, a short story in a much longer story. Mahabharata is full of episodes, and each one is linked to another one. So our lives are like that. It seems short episodes, but the whole story in itself seems to be meaningless. Why is it all? And wherefore are we here? For what reason are we here? This is the great painful question. What is it all about? And why are we here? And then she puts it into words. She said, if it's our spirit's destiny to return to some being of eternal bliss, because that's what we are and that's where we've come from, or maybe not a being of eternal bliss, but at least some still impersonal height of endless calm, some nirvana, some peaceful, calm state. If that is our destiny, how have we got into this in between, this interlude, this episode in between? That's what we are, that's what we came from, that's what we are to return to. Why and how did we get here into this strange and sterile interlude? An interlude is something that plays in between the really important things. This is an interlude. It's a strange interlude. We can't understand it. And it's sterile. It seems not to have any fruit. It doesn't produce anything. It just lasts in vain without producing anything useful through interminable time. Time that is not ending, going on and on and on and on.
Since that we are, and out of that we came.
Yes. So it's that with a capital T. It's referring to the Brahman, or to this state which she describes, some being of eternal bliss. That's what we truly are. That's what we are, and we've come from that, and we have to go back to that. So why are we stuck in this interlude here? Yes. Would you read?
Me?
Yes.
Yeah, sure. Who will to form or paint a universe in the cold and endless emptiness of space? Or if these things must be, or if these beings must be, and their great lives, what need had the soul of ignorance and tears? Whence rose the call for sorrow and for pain?
Let's pause there. Yes. So who by whose will has this universe come into existence? Who willed, whose idea was it to form a universe? Or maybe not even to really form a universe, just to pretend. Feign means to pretend. Perhaps all this is an illusion, but who has brought this illusion into existence in the cold and endless emptiness of space? That is what the scientists tell us. No? Of course, they don't know what was before the Big Bang, but they think that gradually this universe will run down and everything will return to some kind of cold, empty, inert state. Or if there is some need for these beings, all of us beings, to exist with our brief lives, what need has the soul? Why does the soul need to experience ignorance and tears? That's what we are experiencing all the time. No? We are limited by our ignorance, and because we are limited by our ignorance, we suffer and we weep. Whence, from where came this call for sorrow and for pain? If there was a need, what was the need and where did the need come from? She asks this question, and this is one of the questions that Narad will answer. Alice, would you read? Alice?
For all came helplessly without a cause. What power forced the immortal spirit to birth? The eternal witness once of eternity, a deathless sojourner mid transient scenes. He camps in life's half-lit obscurity, amid the debris of his thoughts and dreams.
Yes. Or has all this come about helplessly, without any cause? The ancient Greeks had some kind of idea like that all this has happened because of necessity. It had to happen. Before even there were any gods or divinities or titans or anything, there was necessity. And perhaps some scientists, physicists, they think like that too, that something in the laws of nature just made it necessary, and so it has happened. You know? It all came helplessly, without a cause. The immortal spirit, we think of the immortal spirit as something which is free, eternally free. So what power has forced it to take birth, to be incarnate in human bodies on this sorrowful earth? The immortal spirit that was once an eternal witness of eternity, in itself eternal, witnessing, watching eternity, a deathless being. Now, that deathless being is a sojourner. A sojourner is a person who's staying for some time. Not forever, but for some time. Now he is staying here amongst all these scenes of earth, these transient scenes which are here today and gone tomorrow. So he just camps. A sojourner camps. He stays for a short time. He doesn't have a permanent residence. He camps here in this mortal life, this half-lit obscurity, this kind of twilight state, half light and half darkness, obscurity, shadows. No? And he's living here as if in amid all the rubbish, all that is left. Debris is what is left after there's been a disaster. The tsunami comes and sweeps everything away, and then we see these heaps of debris everywhere. The debris is what is left over, the debris of his thoughts and dreams. Caroline, you would read?
Auroville pursued it to fall from bliss and forfeit its immortal privilege, who laid on its ceaseless will to live. A wanderer in this beautiful, sorrowful world, and bear its load of joy and grief and love.
Thank you. So, before she asked what power forced the immortal spirit to birth. Or perhaps it wasn't forced. Maybe no power can force the immortal spirit to do anything. Who persuaded it? Who gave it good reasons or ideas to fall from that blissful eternal state and to give up? Forfeit means to give up, willingly or unwillingly, its immortal privilege. The privilege of being immortal, which should be eternal existence, consciousness, and bliss. Who has laid on it, imposed on it, this ceaseless will to live as a wanderer, wandering around in this beautiful, sorrowful world. Our Aurobindo, often when he speaks of the earth and the world, he says it's beautiful, but it's dangerous. Or here he says sorrowful. He often puts these opposites together. That's the condition of our world, a world of dualities and contradictions. Who made it, gave it the will to live here and go on bearing this heavy load of joy. And if there's joy, soon there will be grief and love. That is something that human beings can't help doing, but it brings them joy and grief. Gomsun?
Or, if moving watches or walks of time, what hardy impersonal necessity compares the vain toil of briefly living things? The great illusion then has built the stars.
Yes. If there's no being, if there's no conscious, supreme being or reality watching what's going on here in time, what is that kind of hard, impersonal necessity that the Greeks believed in, that's compelling, forcing this, all of us brief, living things to struggle and toil and work hard here? So maybe it's just a great power of illusion. Maybe it is a Maya that has built the stars. None of all this is real, maybe, she says. But if it's not real, then what? Would you like to read?
But where then is the south security? It's poised in this circle of unreal suns. Or else it is a wanderer from its home who strayed into a blind alley of time and chance and finds no issue from a meaningless world.
Thank you. So if it's all an illusion, what is the basis and security, the safety of the soul. Where can it find its poise, its balance in this circling of unreal suns, if all this is an illusion, all this material? What is the basis for the soul? What can it take its stand on then? Perhaps the soul is actually somebody who is lost. It is lost. It has wandered away from its home, and it has strayed into a blind alley. A blind alley is a small street that has a dead end. No? He's come into this world, which maybe is a blind alley of time and chance. Those are the two things that we can recognize happening. No? And finds no issue, finds no way out from this meaningless world. Maybe that's what's happened, that our souls have just got lost, like lost children. Joel.
Oh, where begins and ends illusion's reign. Perhaps the soul we feel is only a dream, eternal self a fiction, sensed in trance.
Where's the beginning and the end of the illusion? Maybe the soul itself is an illusion. This soul that we feel, maybe that's only an illusion, a dream. And this eternal self which the sages tell us about, and which perhaps we may sense or feel, perhaps that too is only a fiction that somebody has sensed, a fiction, something that is not true, something made up, a figment.
What's the meaning of this unreal suns?
If everything is an illusion, then all these stars we see when we look out into the universe, they are all suns or groups of suns, galaxies, if they are all unreal. And particularly, symbolically, the stars represent truths. If all those lights that we see, including our own sun, if these are only an illusion, they don't really exist, where can the soul take its stand then? You'll read?
Then, after a silence, Narad made reply, turning his lips to
Tuning
his lips to earthly sound he spoke, and something now of deep sense of fate weighted the fragile hints of mortal speech.
Yes. So when she finishes speaking, when Savitri's mother falls silent, everybody stays silent, nobody says anything. She has asked Narad, and after some time he begins to speak. When he came from the higher spheres, he was singing. But now he's tuning his lips to earthly sound, he spoke. He's going to speak in a human way. And before he was making beautiful pictures, conveying wonderful things about higher worlds, and he was hiding his knowledge behind all this beautiful imagery. But now when he speaks, something of the deep sense of fate, weighted, it gives some weight to these fragile hints of mortal speech. Our speech doesn't convey very much significance, but when a rishi, a great being like Narad speaks, something of those deeper meanings get conveyed in his speech.
His forehead shone with vision solemnized, turned to a tablet of supernal thoughts, as the characters of an unwritten tongue have left in its breadth the inscriptions of the gods.
Sri Aurobindo often refers to the forehead, no? That the forehead, the space here, is somehow revealing. So now as Narad speaks, his forehead shone, there's a kind of light. He's using his power of vision, and this is a vision that has become solemn, serious, grave. His forehead is has become like a tablet of supernal thoughts. People used to write down very important scriptures or sayings or information on stone. Yeah. So it's something like that, a tablet on which something very significant has been written, thoughts that are coming from higher levels. And it's as if characters of an unwritten tongue, a language that hasn't been written down, but still it gets expressed somehow in symbols and signs, had left the writings, the inscriptions of the gods there, and that is giving a light of significance and meaning to his brow. Yes, Dhanalakshmi.
There in that light, time toiled, his unseen works detected, the broad-flung, foreseeing schemes unfinished, which his aeon flight unrolls, were mapped already in the worldwide look.
Yes. In that light which is on his shoulder, in his brow there, time is toiling bare, naked, unveiled. Time is at work. We don't see the works of time, but Narad can see into the past, the present, and the future. So he can detect, he can see where the works of time are going. These broad, far-flung schemes, unfinished schemes, as if there's a great plan which time has to work out. It's all been mapped out already. Very vast schemes that are going to take a long time to fulfill. Narad can see all that. Those schemes which time unrolls as it flies through the eons, through these vast stretches of time. They are mapped already in that worldwide look, that gaze of Narad. He can see those schemes all laid out clearly and what is going to happen. That is his great power of vision. I think we will stop there. Sorry, Rosa, today we'll stop there for today. Next week we'll start on this long explanations that go almost to the end of the canto. We'll make a start as he begins to answer all this revolt and distress and questioning of the Queen. So shall we go back to the bottom of page 440 and we can read these lines together. I always hope that when we read them now, really for the third time, that we understand them better than we did the first time. All he has achieved, he drags to the precipice. His grandeur he turns to an epic of doom and fall. His littleness crawls content through squalor and mud. He calls heaven's retribution on his head and wallows in his self-made misery. A part author of the cosmic tragedy, his will conspires with death and time and fate. His brief appearance on the enigmaed earth ever recurs, but brings no high result to this wanderer through the eon rings of God that shut his life in their vast longevity. His soul's wide search and ever-returning hopes pursue the useless orbit of their course in a vain repetition of lost toils across a track of soon forgotten lives. All is an episode in a meaningless tale. Why is it all, and wherefore are we here? If to some being of eternal bliss it is our spirit's destiny to return, or some still impersonal height of endless calm, since that we are and out of that we came, whence rose the strange and sterile interlude, lasting in vain through interminable time? Who willed to form or feign a universe in the cold and endless emptiness of space? Or if these beings must be, and their brief lives, what need had the soul of ignorance and tears? Whence rose the call for sorrow and for pain? Or all came helplessly without a cause? What power forced the immortal spirit to birth? The eternal witness once of eternity, a deathless sojourner mid transient scenes, he camps in life's half-lit obscurity amid the debris of his thoughts and dreams. Or who persuaded it to fall from bliss and forfeit its immortal privilege? Who laid on it the ceaseless will to live, a wanderer in this beautiful, sorrowful world, and bear its load of joy and grief and love? Or if no being watches the works of time, What hard impersonal necessity compels the vain toil of brief living things? A great illusion then has built the stars. But where then is the soul's security, its poise in this circling of unreal suns? Or else it is a wanderer from its home who strayed into a blind alley of time and chance and finds no issue from a meaningless world. Or where begins and ends illusion's reign? Perhaps the soul we feel is only a dream, eternal self, a fiction sensed in trance. Then, after a silence, Narad made reply. Tuning his lips to earthly sound he spoke, and something now of the deep sense of fate weighted the fragile hints of mortal speech. His forehead shone with vision solemnized, turned to a tablet of supernal thoughts, as if characters of an unwritten tongue had left in its breadth the inscriptions of the gods. Bare in that light time toiled, his unseen works detected, the broad-flung, far-seeing schemes unfinished, which his aeoned flight unrolls, were mapped already in that world-wide look.